Hello, this lecture is on procedures for teaching speaking and listening. The first module of this lecture is model speaking and listening. The second module is on language in action. The third module is on substantive conversation. The fourth module is on exploratory talk. And the fifth module is on investigating language in a communicative environment. And the last module is scaffolding and small group inquiry. So let's talk about the first module, model speaking and listening. So let me make the definition to the procedure of speaking and listening. So model speaking and listening is somewhat the explicit demonstration of speaking and listening function, behavior, interaction, and convention. Now, how would we describe that? So the description of modeled speaking and listening lesson is somewhat that the focus of this on the explicit teaching of selected speaking and listening functions, conventions, and behavior. The focus should be based on an identified class, group, individual need. Model speaking and listening lessons are most effective when used prior to a new speaking and listening activity, although students will require many demonstrations before they become proficient. What are the key features of model lesson? So these are sort of brief sessions. Sessions are brief, 5 to 10 minutes. Sessions have a clear singular focus. In it, clear think aloud statements are used, can involve small groups or the whole class. Students can practice the skills immediately and the teacher assists and observe. Well, there are benefits for students of model speaking and listening. It helps students to understand the different functions of language. It helps students to become familiar with the use of specialized vocabulary and concept. It helps students to gain an insight into the behaviors associated with a different context and understand why they occur. It helps students to internalize the model of language, eventually using them to construct their own speech. Suggestions for using model speaking and listening in the classroom or planning for model lesson is somewhat teacher determine the purpose and the audience and situation for the speaking and listening activity. Teacher also have to establish an explicit focus for the session based on students' need. Decide if the teaching and learning will be recorded, for example, a class chart, flip charts, individual journals. Conducting a model lesson is somewhat that teacher have to clearly explain the chosen speaking and listening focus, making links to students' experience and prior learning. Teacher have to explain the purpose, audience, and situation of the speaking and listening events. Use clear think aloud statement. Teacher must emphasize and explain any specific vocabulary or phrases that students should use. Teacher must record useful vocabulary and phrases. Teacher display any charts made jointly with the students. After a model lesson, teacher provide opportunity for students to practice and apply their understandings and their understanding independently. Teacher display any chart lists that have been jointly constructed, referring to them as needed. Ideas for assessment. So in idea for assessment, there are few opportunities for assessment in the model speaking and listening lesson. The purpose of this procedure is for teachers to model a specific language use to address students' needs, for example, understanding of different functions of language and their related contexts, familiarity with the specific vocabulary and concept use, and the accompanying behaviors that related to the context. Reflecting on the effective use of a model lesson, teachers have to generate certain questions to ask. Do I provide meaningful opportunity for my students to talk? Do I discuss specific demands of a different spoken context with my students? Do I explicitly teach students about a different components of discourse, for example, planned, unplanned, formal, informal, public and private, dialogue and monologue? Do I provide opportunity for students to apply their understanding? By asking these questions can help to reflect on the use of model lesson.